you applied and you participated in this MBA program when you're in your mid-30s then. Can you talk about, that a little bit? I think there's an interest in, "Oh, if I didn't do this in my 20s, it's too late." Can you talk about that transition in, your mid-30s, and do you think that was the right time? Can people do it later in their life, etcetera?
So I would say you certainly can do it at any point in life. You can recreate yourself at any point. And a lot of this is going to go totally off topic, but a lot of longevity science is saying that the first person to live to be 150 is alive today. Meaning we're all going to see a lot more healthy years, hopefully,
Mhm.
in our lives than ever before. So that should mean that all of us should pursue multiple chapters. And there's certainly not a point in life where we're done reinventing ourselves. But the key is the word reinventing. And I was at a point in my career where at 33 years old, I was very, very comfortable flying. I was very, very comfortable doing air shows and flybys and leading missions and signing autographs. And so my identity was was a lot of ego and not a lot of growth. Meaning it felt good to be told how great I was at doing a certain skill set, but it wasn't that hard to do anymore. It had become rote, and I wasn't growing at this point. In order to go into the business world, I had to completely reinvent myself. And I like to tell people that are transitioning out of the military, as difficult as it was to do the first thing, whether that's be a fighter pilot or an intel officer, or how you had to reinvent yourself at 23 years old, that's just as challenging as it's going to be. You have to sign up again for the B course, as we call it, as fighter pilots, the thing that introduces you to being a fighter pilot, and realize that you're devoting that much effort to reinventing yourself. And people would push back and say, "Yeah, but you've already led in these environments. You have all of these things that should carry over. Wouldn't it be easier for you just to make a transition and less of that initiation energy that's required to start this new thing?" And the answer is no. You literally have to start it over as if you're 25 years old. You got to eat a lot of humble pie and realize you're not special in this environment. But the good news is you can become special very quickly if you're willing to reinvent yourself. Now you bring perspective that nobody else can carry. Nobody else knows how to navigate high stakes life or death environments like we've learned in the military. Nobody shows up with the processes that we've learned through checklists and through cultural training, all the things that maybe we didn't even aware that we're seeing. As soon as you see the opposite in the business world and you realize, wow, they don't have that great of a culture here. We had a great one in the military. That's a huge resource that you can bring into that environment, but only after you've completely reinvented yourself and translated your skill set into something that's meaningful for that business setting.
So, Joel, that's fascinating because what you're saying is you're almost stripping yourself of all these experiences to really open up your aperture for what's new. And I'm curious if this was a way you came into that. Did you go in with your eyes wide open with that plan, or did you learn this about yourself?
No, I came into it arrogantly. I went into these conversations think, wait till they see how much I have to offer. I've been in very complex scenarios. I've led my way out of them. I have all these awards for being a good leader and a good instructor. And so just wait until they see what I've got to offer. And that's why business school helped me out a lot because in a sandbox setting that really didn't have consequences, I got to participate in conversations and learned very quickly I didn't know what they were talking about. And that they had an understanding around business already that I didn't have. I didn't understand the language, and I needed to really re-educate myself to become ready in this moment. And so there's some moments in that period where I would have done very differently in approaching the next transition had I known how far I had to go to really having something to offer the business sector.
I think that is really, really thoughtful in how you share that because then it helped you probably in navigating when you're leading, other teams that have different experiences coming to the table. So when you learn that language, and I want to talk a little bit about, you've CEO of Afterburner. Let's just talk about your role in the civilian sector, your multiple roles. I'd love for you to share a couple of stories where you've grown as a leader and where you've continued to learn things about yourself in that space.
Yeah, so at Afterburner, what we end up doing at Afterburner more often than not was leading in keynotes, doing workshops for training, and what we would show them is how you can leverage the things that we learned in the military on the elite teams that we participated in, whether that's Green Beret, fighter pilot, Navy SEAL. We hired all those backgrounds, and of course look for teams that had a business degree on top of that. Uh, what we ended up doing was getting on stage in front of these folks and sometimes talking to 10,000 people. So I've done presentations in front of 10,000 people in my past. And what I was surprised by, thinking about the learning opportunities and where the growth came from, is that even after having done 3,000 briefings, in a fighter pilot setting and getting in front of the red flag team in Nellis and doing a
Mhm.
presentation there, I would be behind the scenes at some of these huge presentations, and I would get incredible stage fright, I guess is the only way to say it, butterflies. I would
Mm.
feel like I was gonna pass out. And the reason I share this is because I was frustrated that it didn't translate better to this new thing that I was looking to do with public speaking. Now I'm talking for an hour and I had to be engaging and comical at times and bringing the audience into it. I say that because once again, I was finding that combination of terror and exhilaration and proving to myself that I could do it. And I had a new place that I needed to grow into for that. Now I've done this enough times where my heart rate doesn't go up a beat when I do this at this point, but that's after doing thousands of presentations. And I think the key takeaway for me was our growth is never over with, and it's a growth that really feels good. And so leaning into those areas of discomfort has been something that's been really important to me my entire life, particularly after cancer.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this leadership lesson, watch the full episode by hitting the thumbnail here and subscribe now to get the latest episodes of Long Blue Leadership delivered directly to your YouTube feed or wherever you get your podcasts.